Have you ever felt like life keeps handing you the same lesson, just with different faces, different settings, different details? One breakup looks eerily similar to another. A job opportunity that ends the same way no matter the industry. Friends come and go, but the emotional aftermath always hits that same nerve. You're not alone. And more importantly, you're not imagining it. There's a reason certain experiences seem to recycle through your life. Like scenes from a play you didn't consciously agree to act in. And it's not just coincidence, bad luck, or poor decision-making. It's something deeper. Something that lives underneath your choices, underneath your reactions. It's a pattern, but not the kind you can see at first glance. This pattern is energetic. It's coded in your emotional responses, your thoughts, your assumptions, and even the way you hold yourself when no one's watching. This isn't a mystical metaphor. This is about a real, measurable, and repeatable phenomenon that researchers, spiritual practitioners, and energy workers have all been exploring for years. It's called a vibrational blueprint. It's influenced by a theory known as morphic resonance. And if you've never heard of those terms, that's okay. Because by the end of this video, you won't just understand them. You'll know how they're working behind the scenes to silently shape your life. You're going to learn how to track this hidden loop in your own experience. You'll be able to map it out mood by mood, thought by thought, result by result, until it becomes undeniable. You'll see how your current emotional patterns are sculpting your future outcomes with shocking accuracy. And more importantly, you'll learn how to stop it. Not just temporarily interrupt it, but actually disrupt and rewrite the energy signature that's been guiding your reality without your full awareness. This video is not about abstract philosophy or vague inspiration. It's about clarity, about bringing your attention to the actual mechanics of how your energy interacts with the world around you. Because once you understand how your inner patterns create your outer life, everything changes. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Take a moment right now and think about the last 3 real challenges you faced. Maybe it was a confrontation with someone you care about. Maybe it was a dream that didn't work out. Maybe it was a fear that showed up again, louder this time. Look at those 3 experiences and ask yourself, are there any similarities? Do they feel connected by an emotional thread? Does the same feeling linger, even when the circumstances change? That's not a glitch. That's your energetic fingerprint at work. In the next parts of this video, you're going to discover how these repeating loops are formed. You'll learn how vibrational resonance doesn't just influence your emotions, but actually calls in people, places, and events that match it. You'll see how your internal state is shaping your external world in real time. And most importantly, you'll learn how to step outside of it. Because you don't have to keep repeating the same emotional cycles. You don't have to stay stuck in experiences that no longer serve you. And you certainly don't have to accept that this is just how life is. There is a method. There is a structure. And yes, there is a way out. Let's start by uncovering the real reason certain things just keep showing up in your life over and over again. It's time to expose the hidden system behind it all. And once you see it, you can finally change it. Why do certain people, places, or situations seem to echo across your life, like they're playing on repeat? You shift jobs, change cities, meet new people. Yet somehow the emotional outcomes feel strangely familiar. There's a pattern hiding in plain sight, and once you identify it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Let's get right to it. Your life isn't built on isolated events. It's built on rhythms. Recurring dynamics that often masquerade as progress or random coincidence. But look closer, and you'll find a looping structure beneath your day-to-day experiences. This isn't fate. This isn't destiny. It's repetition disguised as movement. Start by asking this simple question. Do I keep ending up in similar emotional places, no matter how much I try to change my outer world? If the answer is yes, then the surface details of your life may be changing, but the underlying energetic pattern hasn't. Here's how it works. Every emotion you repeatedly feel leaves an energetic imprint. These imprints begin to form emotional expectations. Those expectations influence how you interpret your environment, how you respond to people, and even what you notice in a situation. Over time, they create a kind of psychological resonance, a familiar frequency that your system seeks out even unconsciously. This is why someone can leave a toxic relationship only to find themselves in a nearly identical one 6 months later. It's why someone can leave a stressful job only to feel the same emotional exhaustion at the next one. The story changes. The pattern doesn't. Now ask yourself, what emotional themes keep showing up in your life? Common repeating themes include betrayal, abandonment, power struggles, scarcity, or feeling unseen. But the specific theme doesn't matter as much as the emotional state it evokes. That emotional state is the key. You're not necessarily attracting these experiences because you deserve them or because of some karmic sentence. It's because energy seeks out its match. And until you change the core emotional blueprint, your life will continue to mirror it. This brings us to a concept you need to become very familiar with: emotional resonance. Emotional resonance is the invisible signal you're sending out based on what you habitually feel, think, and expect. It's like a tuning fork that vibrates at a certain pitch, drawing in experiences that match it. That doesn't mean you're to blame for everything that happens to you, but it does mean you have far more influence than you might believe. Think of your mind like a search engine. When you've typed the same kind of emotional keywords into it over and over, fear, disappointment, lack, it starts to autofill with more of the same. Your attention filters out anything that doesn't match that frequency. So even when life offers something different, your system may not fully register it. And now the hardest part: emotional patterns can be addictive. The familiarity of certain feelings can become comfortable, even when they're painful. That's why it's not always enough to change your mindset. You need to change your emotional set point. Pause here and reflect. Are you replaying a loop disguised as growth? Real growth doesn't just look different, it feels different. It brings about unfamiliar emotions, expanded awareness, and unexpected outcomes. But repeating patterns, no matter how new they appear on the surface, tend to circle back to the same emotional terrain. To start seeing these loops more clearly, here's a tool: emotional tracking. Over the next 3 to 5 days, take a moment at the end of each day to write down the strongest emotion you felt and the situation that triggered it. Then ask, have I felt this before in a similar situation? Trace it back. Look for echoes. Over time, you'll notice the same emotional chords being struck, regardless of the outer story. Once you see the pattern, you've already started to loosen its grip. In upcoming parts of this video, we'll go deeper into how these patterns get reinforced by morphic resonance, how your personal emotional history creates a field that influences future experiences. But for now, your task is this: observe. Don't rationalize. Don't excuse. Just watch the emotional rhythm of your life as it plays out. Because once you can hear the song that's been looping in the background, you can choose a new one, ready to challenge the deeper structure that's guiding your reality. Next, we break down how your personal energetic field is actually resonating with invisible memory fields that stretch beyond your individual experience. Let's move forward. Your thoughts are not isolated events. Neither are your emotions, habits, or behaviors. They exist within a field, an invisible framework that stretches beyond your physical body, influencing not only your present moment but also what happens next. And that framework has a name: morphic resonance. This term might sound unfamiliar, but the idea is surprisingly simple once it clicks. Morphic resonance is the concept that once something happens enough times, it creates an energetic template that influences similar events in the future. That means your repeated thoughts, emotions, and experiences aren't just staying within your own body or mind. They're being recorded in a kind of energetic memory field. And once enough energy has accumulated in that field, it becomes easier for the same patterns to repeat. The idea was proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake, who suggested that there are invisible information fields, morphic fields, that guide the formation and behavior of all systems, from biological organisms to social habits. These fields carry a memory. The more a pattern is repeated, the stronger it becomes within the field. And everything with a similar structure, vibration, or frequency can tap into that field and be influenced by it. Now take a moment to consider what that means for you personally. If you've been caught in recurring cycles, whether in relationships, finances, health, or inner emotional states, it might not just be about your upbringing, personality, or recent choices. It might be that you're resonating with a well-worn energetic path. A path made by your own repetition and possibly reinforced by others walking the same emotional terrain. Let's make this even more concrete. Every time you feel the same kind of sadness, anger, guilt, or fear, you reinforce that emotional blueprint. That energy doesn't just stay in your system. It's emitted like a signal. That signal connects with the morphic field of similar energy. And when that resonance is strong enough, it draws in matching experiences, circumstances, and people. Not as punishment, not because you deserve pain, but because energy finds what matches. It's not unlike muscle memory. Once a particular movement has been practiced enough, your body performs it automatically. Likewise, once an emotional response or belief has been repeated enough, your energy field defaults to it without your conscious input. The field becomes the pattern, and the pattern becomes your reality. This explains why making external changes often doesn't lead to lasting transformation. You move to a new city, but the same social conflicts show up. You start a new relationship, but the same arguments resurface. That's because the morphic field hasn't been altered. You changed your scenery, but the energy stayed the same. Here's the powerful takeaway. You are not just affected by morphic resonance, you also contribute to it. Every choice, every thought, every emotional reaction is feeding or weakening a specific field. That means the patterns in your life are not fixed. They're fluid, and they shift based on where you place your attention, intention, and energy. So how can you start to work with this invisible web instead of being tangled by it? Start by noticing the strength of repetition. Look at any behavior or emotional reaction you engage in frequently, especially the ones you don't think about anymore. These are the access points to your most active morphic fields. These are the pathways that, right now, are the easiest for your system to follow. Here's an exercise. For the next 24 hours, watch your most automatic emotional reactions. What triggers frustration? Where do you shut down? What kind of people or moments make you feel unseen or invalidated? Then ask, have I responded this way before? If the answer is yes, and it almost always is, you've just located a thread in your personal field. Now imagine how many times you've reinforced that thread. Over years, possibly decades. It's no wonder that change feels difficult. You're not fighting your willpower. You're dealing with the gravitational pull of a deeply established energetic habit. But again, the fact that it's energetic is your advantage. Because energy can be shifted, patterns can be rewritten, and morphic fields can be reprogrammed. Here's the strategy. To stop feeding the current field, you must start making different energetic choices, especially in small moments where your system expects you to default. For example, if your usual reaction to discomfort is avoidance, try confronting the discomfort in a calm, grounded way. If your typical pattern in relationships is self-abandonment, try asserting a need clearly and kindly. These choices are not just personal victories. They're energetic disruptions. And each time you interrupt the resonance, you weaken the field. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to become conscious of which fields you're reinforcing and which ones you're ready to dismantle. You may even find that some of the strongest patterns don't feel like they started with you. That's because morphic fields can be collective. Family trauma, cultural beliefs, ancestral conditioning. These all have energetic footprints. You might be resonating with fields that have existed long before you, simply because you inherited the emotional tone of the people or environment you grew up in. This is not about blame. It's about awareness. Because when you become aware of the field, you step outside of it. You become an observer instead of an unconscious participant. To begin this shift, here's a powerful mantra to carry with you today. This pattern is not who I am. It's just what I've practiced. And I can practice something new. Repeat it often. Especially when you feel pulled back into the same emotions, same stories, same internal spirals. Each time you choose a new response, you're not just helping yourself. You're changing the resonance of the entire field. So, let's ask again. Could your thoughts be echoing someone else's? Or even your past selves? The answer is yes. And now you know why. Your personal experience is shaped by invisible energetic fields, made stronger with each repetition. But those fields are malleable. They respond to awareness, intention, and action. And the moment you become conscious of the loop, you gain the power to shift it. Next, you'll discover how your energy emits a kind of invisible blueprint before you even speak, decide, or move. And that blueprint sets the tone for everything that follows. Get ready to unpack the vibrational architecture that's been guiding your results all along. There is something operating in your life that speaks louder than words, moves faster than logic, and influences people, decisions, and outcomes before anything is consciously decided. It's not your mindset. It's not your personality. It's your vibrational blueprint. Every person emits a specific energetic signature. This signature is created through the consistent mix of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and intentions. Over time, this energetic signature forms a kind of invisible structure that quietly shapes your experiences. It becomes a blueprint, not metaphorically but energetically. That blueprint informs what types of people are drawn to you, which situations seem to randomly occur, and even how others perceive and respond to you. Here's where it becomes important. This blueprint is constantly broadcasting, whether you're aware of it or not. And most people are not. They think they're communicating through their words. They assume their actions are the loudest part of their presence. But that's only part of the picture. Your dominant energy enters a room before you speak. It influences outcomes before you make a decision. It creates a resonance that either attracts alignment or repels it. And until you become aware of what your blueprint contains, you're flying blind. Let's break it down. Start by looking at your most repeated emotions. Not the occasional feelings that come and go, but the states you live in most of the time. These are the emotional bricks in your vibrational house. They provide the shape and tone of your field. Whether it's anxiety, resentment, self-doubt, or gratitude, presence, and clarity. These vibrations are not neutral. They're instructive. They tell reality how to respond to you. So ask yourself this: what emotional states do I inhabit regularly, without even realizing it? The answer to that question gives you a first glimpse at your vibrational architecture. Now let's take it a level deeper. This blueprint doesn't just come from your emotional habits. It's also shaped by your beliefs, especially the ones you stopped questioning. If you believe the world is unsafe, that belief generates fear. That fear shapes your energy. That energy becomes your signal. And that signal starts attracting and selecting situations that reflect that fear. Same goes for the belief that you're not good enough, or that success always comes with suffering, or that love equals pain. Every belief leaves a vibrational trace. And when those traces become consistent, they start dictating your energetic tone. This is where most people get stuck. They try to change their outer reality without changing the inner energetic instructions they're unconsciously giving. It's like ordering a meal at a restaurant while handing the waiter a completely different menu behind your back. You'll always get what you're actually signaling, not what you say you want. Let's look at how this plays out practically. Someone who consistently holds the belief that they're not respected will emit an energy of defensiveness or overcompensation. Even if they say all the right things, their presence carries an emotional tension that others can feel. Over time, people respond to that tension by backing off, challenging them, or failing to take them seriously, thus reinforcing the original belief. This is not coincidence. It's the vibrational blueprint in motion. But here's the shift. Once you start becoming conscious of the blueprint, you can edit it. Start by observing your outcomes. Look at the last 5 or 6 meaningful events in your life. Were they filled with ease or resistance, clarity or confusion? Did people meet you with openness or distance? Write down the patterns. Then ask, what kind of energy must I have been consistently holding to attract these kinds of outcomes? This is not about blame. This is about becoming fluent in the language your energy is speaking. Now, let's talk about intention. Intention is the architect of your vibrational blueprint. It's the difference between a reactive energy field and a designed one. When you move through life without intention, you default to past energy. Your blueprint gets shaped by whatever emotions you've unconsciously repeated. But when you begin to live with focused, conscious intention, even in small doses, you start to write a new pattern. That means starting your day not with your to-do list, but with a choice about how you want to feel and what kind of energy you want to radiate. It means checking in with yourself before conversations and asking, what energy am I bringing into this exchange? It means catching yourself mid-pattern and saying, this may be familiar, but it's not required. Every time you do this, you begin to alter the instructions embedded in your blueprint. Let's look at an exercise to help you activate this shift. Close your eyes and recall a recent moment when you felt frustrated or stuck. Instead of analyzing it mentally, feel the emotional energy that moment held. Was it tightness, hesitation, anger? Now breathe into that feeling. Give it space. Then ask yourself, what belief is underneath this emotion? Wait for the answer. Don't overthink it. Whatever shows up, trust it. Next, ask, is this belief creating a result I actually want in my life? If not, it's time to replace it. Choose a new belief, not just a nicer one, but one that feels energetically clean and aligned. For example, replace, I'm always behind with, I move at the perfect pace for me. Or replace, I'm invisible to others, with my presence is naturally magnetic. Now embody that belief. Feel how your body shifts. Notice what it does to your breathing, your posture, your tone. This is how you begin to rewrite the vibrational instructions you've been giving the world. And remember, energy is not fooled. You can't fake a new vibration. You must feel it, embody it, and live from it long enough that it becomes your new emotional home. Your vibrational blueprint is like a living code. And just like any code, it can be updated, restructured, and optimized. The only thing it can't be is hidden. Because whether you acknowledge it or not, it's already shaping your relationships, opportunities, and emotional rhythms. Now that you've seen how this hidden structure works, the next phase is to understand how it locks you into a loop that connects your mood, your thoughts, and your results in a self-reinforcing cycle. This is the mechanism behind the stuckness so many people feel. And once you recognize that mechanism, you can break the loop. Get ready. The next insight connects all the pieces so far into a system you'll start seeing everywhere. Every single moment of your life, you're participating in a feedback loop. Whether you're conscious of it or not, this loop is continuously shaping what you think, how you act, and what you experience. It's not fate. It's not chance. It's a mechanism. And most people are caught inside it without realizing just how much control they actually have. Here's how the loop works. Your mood influences your thoughts dictate your actions lead to results, and those results loop right back around to reinforce your original mood. This cycle happens over and over, often dozens of times in a single day. Let's break it down from the beginning. Your mood is your emotional foundation. It's not necessarily caused by a specific event. It's the emotional state you default to when nothing is demanding your attention. For some people, this might be anxious anticipation. For others, it's apathy, resentment, self-doubt, or even a low-grade frustration that lingers in the background. Your mood acts like a filter. It determines how you perceive the world. Now watch what happens next. Your mood shapes your thoughts. A person with a tense, worried mood will automatically begin scanning the environment for problems, looking for proof that things are about to go wrong. Their thoughts become tinted by the emotional lens they're wearing. And those thoughts aren't neutral, they create narratives, stories, and judgments that then influence behavior. Once those thoughts have formed, you begin to act in ways that are consistent with them. These actions, whether subtle or overt, start creating results. And when those results show up, your system uses them as validation. This always happens to me. Of course they didn't call back. Why bother trying again? And just like that, the mood that started it all is confirmed. The loop tightens. This is the triad trap: mood, thought, result, each piece reinforcing the next until it becomes so automatic you stop questioning it. Let's make this real with an example. Someone wakes up with a feeling of discouragement. They don't even know why. It's just there, hovering. That mood influences their thoughts. Today's probably going to be rough. I won't get through half of what I need to do. Those thoughts lead to action, or in this case, inaction. They delay their tasks, put off difficult conversations, and move sluggishly through the day. The result? Low productivity, vague guilt, and a sense of being behind. That outcome loops right back into the original mood. The cycle repeats again the next day, and the day after that. Now imagine this happening for weeks, months, years. The triad becomes identity. This is just how I am. But it's not how you are. It's how the loop is. And once you start seeing it, you can interrupt it. Let's go deeper into each piece and show how to take control. Start with mood, the emotional fuel. Your mood is influenced by your body, your environment, your self-talk, your sleep, your nutrition, and more. The key is to recognize that your mood isn't just something that happens to you. It's something that responds to conditions. That means you can create small shifts in those conditions and produce big changes in your mood. Want to change the loop? Begin here. Instead of trying to think your way out of a bad mood, support your body. Move. Breathe differently. Step outside. Adjust your posture. Mood isn't just mental, it's chemical, physical, and energetic. And if you treat it holistically, it starts to shift more easily. Next is thought. Once mood sets the stage, thoughts step in to narrate your reality. But not all thoughts deserve your attention. The key is to question the automatic. Start by asking yourself this. Is this thought based on truth or just based on emotion? Then ask, what's another way to view this moment? These simple questions begin to interrupt the loop. They stop the momentum of unchallenged mental spirals. Remember, your thoughts are not facts. They are responses to your mood, your conditioning, and your expectations. And if you can slow them down just long enough to examine them, you create space. That space is everything. Now we arrive at action. Once thoughts have taken shape, you act. This is where the loop solidifies. Your behavior either reinforces or disrupts the emotional pattern you started with. Here's where strategy matters. The goal isn't to force yourself into heroic action every time. It's to act in small ways that shift the energy. If you're feeling stuck and hopeless, don't try to overhaul your entire day. Do one tiny thing that aligns with clarity, power, or peace. Clean one corner of your desk. Send one message you've been avoiding. Speak one truth that feels authentic. These microactions start to send a new signal into the loop. And that signal leads to different results. When the result changes, even slightly, it feeds back into your mood differently. You feel a little more capable, a little more motivated. That new mood fuels clearer thoughts. Clearer thoughts lead to bolder action. Bolder action generates better results. The loop upgrades itself. This is how transformation begins, not in big declarations, but in small corrections to a powerful system. Now let's talk about mapping your personal loop. Over the next few days, commit to watching this triad in action. Keep a short log. Break it into 3 parts. Mood. What am I feeling right now? Thoughts. What am I telling myself as a result of that mood? Results. What choices or outcomes followed those thoughts? Look for recurring patterns. See how often one emotional state leads to the same mental stories and then creates the same outcomes. You'll begin to recognize your personal loop in real time. And that awareness alone starts to break the trance. Once you've identified your default loop, start practicing one powerful disruptor. Pattern interruption. This means intentionally choosing to do something that your old loop wouldn't expect. If your mood tells you to shut down, get moving. If your thoughts tell you to give up, take one small action anyway. This confuses the loop in the best way possible. It forces your system to pause, recalibrate, and adapt. The most important thing to remember is this: you're not the loop. You are the observer of the loop. And as the observer, you have the authority to change its direction. Don't underestimate the power of one different choice. When repeated, those choices shift your emotional baseline. They rewire your thought patterns. They create new behaviors and new results. And those results feed a new kind of mood, a new emotional home. This isn't about controlling every thought or emotion. It's about working with the system consciously instead of being trapped by it unconsciously. You've now seen how the mood-thought-result cycle operates and how it builds your experience one loop at a time. Next, we'll look at what happens when these loops become so consistent they begin attracting people, events, and outcomes like clockwork. It's time to meet the force inside your emotional patterns that pulls your reality into form. There's a question that quietly haunts many people. Why does this keep happening to me? You try to make better choices, you shift your environment, you learn new skills, and yet somehow you end up in the same emotional place. Again, the names change, the settings change, but the experience echoes something familiar. This repetition is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, a persistent sense of being overlooked, a recurring tension in your relationships, an uncanny feeling that life keeps handing you the same lesson, again and again. Here's the truth, you're not imagining it. There is something real happening beneath the surface. It's called an attractor. In energetic terms, an attractor is a dominant emotional frequency that acts like a gravitational pull in your life. It draws in situations, people, and outcomes that match its vibration, whether or not those matches are what you consciously desire. These attractors are created and reinforced by your emotional set point, the baseline state you return to when you're not trying to feel better or think positive. Most people's emotional set point was formed early, through repeated emotional experiences, often in childhood, and then strengthened through years of unconscious reinforcement. And once a strong attractor is in place, it starts shaping reality automatically. Here's how it works. Every emotion carries a specific frequency. Repeated emotional states create stability in that frequency. Think of it as setting your emotional thermostat. If someone lives in a state of fear long enough, they begin to interpret and attract life through that lens. Even if the environment is neutral or safe, the fear attractor filters experience to make it match. That's because the subconscious mind is designed to seek consistency, not truth. So if your emotional set point is tied to abandonment, for example, you'll find yourself drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, or unstable. Even if you meet someone different, you might unconsciously sabotage the connection to return to the familiar frequency. Not because you want the pain, but because the attractor is stronger than your conscious desire. This is not about punishment. It's about resonance. Your attractor fields are simply maintaining what they believe is your energetic status quo. Let's look at a practical example. Say you've built a strong emotional attractor around being undervalued. You've had enough experiences of being dismissed, ignored, or taken for granted that your system has locked that emotion in as normal. That attractor now influences how you interpret other people's behavior. It filters compliments through suspicion, support through skepticism. And when someone actually does value you, the interaction may feel uncomfortable because it doesn't match the attractor. You pull back, or push away, or overcompensate. The result? The value you were offered fades. The outcome? More evidence for the original attractor. This is the loop, and it's extremely persistent. Now, here's the part that most people miss. Attractors aren't just emotional, they're energetic fields. And that means they're active even when you're not thinking about them. They emit from you, they radiate, and they subtly inform the behavior of others, even if no words are exchanged. You've likely experienced this in reverse. You meet someone and immediately feel on edge. They didn't say anything wrong. They weren't hostile, but something in their energy felt heavy, closed, or aggressive. That's because you were feeling the effect of their attractor field. Communicates, even in silence. So ask yourself this: what kind of emotional experiences do I keep attracting, despite my best efforts to avoid them? Is it chaos? Is it rejection? Is it conflict? These repeated experiences point directly to your attractor fields. Don't try to analyze them too much at first. Just notice the pattern. Recognize the emotional familiarity behind it. That's the key: familiarity. If something feels familiar, especially if it's uncomfortable, there's a good chance it's being reinforced by an attractor. So how do you shift this? It begins with emotional awareness. You must locate your dominant attractor by identifying your emotional set point. This isn't the mood you're in today. It's the feeling you come home to when nothing specific is happening. To identify it, try this reflection. When my mind isn't occupied, what emotional state naturally rises? Do you feel quietly tense? Lonely? Alert? Numb? Disappointed? This default state is the signal you've been broadcasting. Once you identify it, the next step is to disrupt the automatic reinforcement of that attractor. That means doing things that feel emotionally unfamiliar in a healthy way. Let's say your attractor is scarcity, the feeling that there's never enough time, money, love, or opportunity. To shift it, you need to start practicing emotional states that align with sufficiency, even in small, symbolic ways. This doesn't mean pretending you have more than you do. It means choosing to notice, savor, and appreciate what is available. These micro shifts begin to loosen the grip of the scarcity field. Here's the challenge: your system will resist. It will try to pull you back into the familiar emotional tone. Not because it's right, but because it's known. So when you start to shift your attractor field, expect some inner friction. You might feel silly, guilty, or fake. You might hear mental narratives trying to reassert the old belief. This is normal. It's the attractor fighting to maintain its structure. Your job is not to eliminate the old field in one day. It's to weaken its hold by refusing to reinforce it with the same emotional habits. Every time you respond differently, you reduce the attractor's momentum. Here's a practical technique to support this emotional redirection. When you catch yourself reacting in alignment with your old attractor, maybe with frustration, panic, or self-dismissal, pause, breathe, then choose a different emotion on purpose. This doesn't have to be a giant leap. If you're stuck in anger, aim for calm neutrality. If you're caught in shame, reach for self-compassion. Name the new emotion. Anchor it in your body. Feel it for 60 seconds. This short practice, repeated daily, begins to rewrite the frequency you emit. And remember, you are not your attractors. You are the one observing them. You are the one choosing whether to feed them or weaken them. The more conscious you become, the more power you gain to shift what you attract. Because life is not responding to what you want. It's responding to what you radiate. And your radiation is made up of the emotional frequencies you practice most. Now that you understand how attractors operate, you're ready to confront one of their most powerful sources, emotional memory. This is the hidden ghost in your energetic field, the part of your past that never stopped vibrating. Next, we'll explore how emotional echoes from years ago can still be directing your present-day reality. Pain has a strange way of staying with us, not just in memory, but in sensation, in reaction, in the choices we make without thinking. You may believe a moment is behind you, long processed, long resolved, but then a phrase, a tone of voice, a subtle gesture brings it all back. Not just mentally, energetically. This is what we're dealing with when we talk about emotional memory. A form of stored energy that doesn't sit in your past but lives in your present. And if left unexamined, it begins to function like a ghost. Not visible, not loud, but powerful. This ghost is the phantom of familiar pain, and it may be shaping your reality more than you realize. Let's define this clearly. Emotional memory is the echo of a past emotional experience that remains energetically active in your system. These echoes are not bound to chronological time. They are not dependent on your conscious memory. You might not even remember the original moment that created them. But your body does. Your nervous system does. Your energy field does. This is why you might find yourself reacting intensely to situations that, on the surface, don't seem that significant. It's not the situation itself. It's the resonance it holds with an older, unprocessed experience. The phantom pain has been triggered. Take a moment now to reflect on this. When have I reacted bigger than the situation seemed to warrant? You'll find clues there. Signals that point toward unresolved energetic imprints still running in the background. And the key word here is unresolved. Not every painful experience leaves behind this phantom. Only the ones that were emotionally suppressed, dismissed, or misunderstood. The ones that didn't get expressed or integrated. When pain is not fully acknowledged, it doesn't leave. It hides. And from its hiding place, it starts to program your energy. Let's break that down. When you experience emotional pain, rejection, betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, and you don't fully process it, your system makes a note. This is dangerous. Avoid this. It then begins to scan for anything remotely similar so it can protect you. But the scanning process becomes overactive. You begin to anticipate pain where there is none. You react to potential threats that are actually neutral. And in doing so, you reinforce the emotional blueprint of the original wound. You build your energy field not around who you are, but around what hurt you. That field becomes protective, cautious, reactive. And over time, it starts to draw in experiences that match it. Not because you want more pain, but because your system has calibrated to expect it. It's the same attractor principle we discussed earlier, but now it's being driven by memory rather than mood. Let's take an example. Suppose, as a child, you experienced consistent emotional invalidation. Your feelings were ignored, dismissed, or punished. You may not even remember the details, but the emotional memory created a program. My feelings don't matter. I'm not safe to express myself. Now fast forward to adulthood. Someone interrupts you in a meeting, or a partner dismisses your concern, and suddenly you feel a disproportionate wave of emotion. Tightness in your chest, pressure in your throat, a flood of heat or shame. That's not just about the moment. That's the phantom being reactivated. The past is speaking through the present. And this happens constantly, especially in relationships. Emotional phantoms from past rejections show up as jealousy, mistrust, withdrawal. Phantoms from past failures show up as hesitation, self-sabotage, or perfectionism. The problem is not that we have these echoes. The problem is that we don't know their echoes. So what do? First, you have to locate the phantom. You have to become fluent in the language of emotional memory. Here's a powerful technique. Notice the intensity. Pay attention to any emotional reaction that feels out of scale with the situation. Name the feeling. Go beyond angry or upset. Try to pinpoint the deeper sensation. Is it abandonment? Is it humiliation? Is it powerlessness? Trace the origin. Ask, when have I felt this same feeling before? Go as far back as you can. Don't force it. Just allow the answer to surface. Often, a younger version of yourself will appear. A scene, a moment. That's the phantom speaking. You've just located the echo. Now, here's where you create transformation, not just insight. Once the memory surfaces, speak to it. Not in your mind, out loud or in writing. Tell that younger self what they never heard. You weren't wrong for feeling that. It wasn't your fault. You didn't deserve that. You're safe now. This kind of self-dialogue is not childish. It's energetic repair. It helps unfreeze the emotional charge that's been stuck in your system. And every time you do this, you reclaim part of your energy that was trapped in the past. But that's only one layer. The next step is to notice how the phantom has shaped your present-day behavior. Ask yourself, what decisions have I made because I was trying to avoid this kind of pain? This question will often reveal entire patterns in your life, where you've played small, avoided intimacy, stayed silent, or pursued things that weren't right for you, just to keep the phantom quiet. Once you see this, everything changes, because now you're not reacting blindly. You're choosing consciously. Here's something important to understand. Healing a phantom doesn't always feel like a breakthrough. Sometimes it's subtle. It feels like more space in your chest, more neutrality in situations that used to trigger you, more clarity about what's yours and what belongs to a memory. This is the sign that the energetic residue is clearing, that the old pain is no longer programming your present. But you have to be patient. These phantoms don't leave on command. They leave through recognition, compassion, and consistency. Each time you respond to a familiar pain with a new action, you rewrite the imprint. Each time you stay present with discomfort instead of avoiding it, you create a new memory. Each time you tell yourself the truth, that you are not your past, you weaken the phantom's grip. You'll know the phantom is fading when you stop anticipating the worst, when silence no longer feels threatening, when love feels less like a risk and more like a possibility. This isn't magic. It's practice. Emotional memory may shape your reactions, but it doesn't define your potential. Now that you understand how stored pain creates unconscious programming, you're ready to explore how your energy is constantly being mirrored by the world around you. The universe doesn't just reflect your actions, it reflects your frequency. Next, you'll learn how to read your reality as a feedback system, and use it to adjust your internal state with precision. Every single interaction, event, and moment in your life holds a message, but not a message from the outside world telling you what to do. The real message is coming from within, reflected back at you through circumstances, relationships, and patterns. This is the core principle of mirror reality. Your reality doesn't just show up randomly. It reflects the energy you consistently hold. Not just what you think, not just what you say you want, but what you feel, what you expect, and what you emit on a vibrational level. It's a loop of resonance. You send out a signal and the world responds accordingly, like an echo bouncing off the walls of your own consciousness. Let's make this unmistakably clear. Life is not responding to your wishes. Life is responding to your frequency. Now take a moment. Think about the last 3 people or situations that triggered an emotional reaction in you. Were you annoyed, disappointed, validated, inspired? Then ask yourself, what was that situation reflecting back to me about my current state? Because this is how mirror reality works. Whatever you experience most consistently in your outer world is a mirror of what's happening in your inner one. Here's the key distinction. This isn't about blame. This isn't about guilt. This is about ownership. When you recognize the outer world as a reflection of your internal state, you gain access to feedback that's incredibly precise. That's how you grow, not by fixing what's out there, but by tuning what's in here. Let's walk through a common scenario. You find yourself repeatedly feeling unappreciated. At work, in your family, in relationships. You start to believe that the world is just full of people who don't value what you bring. But pause, zoom out, and ask, what part of me is still unsure of my value? Because the outer experience is not random. It's highlighting the internal insecurity. And this is the shift. When something consistently shows up in your life, it's not trying to defeat you. It's trying to show you where your frequency is out of alignment with your desires. The mirror doesn't lie. It simply reflects. Let's go deeper. There are 3 main categories where mirror reality becomes unmistakable. People, reactions, circumstances. Start with people. The people who consistently show up in your life are not coincidences. They are energetic match points. If you attract controlling, distant, or unavailable people, you need to ask, where am I still controlling, unavailable, or distant with myself? If you constantly attract people who need saving, ask, what part of me feels worthy only when I'm needed? This kind of self-inquiry doesn't always feel comfortable, but it leads to truth. And truth leads to change. Next, look at reactions. The way you react to others is one of the clearest indicators of your own unresolved material. If someone's confidence annoys you, you may be out of alignment with your own power. If someone's success triggers your judgment, you might be denying your own desire to expand. Reactions are clues. They show you what you're rejecting, avoiding, or suppressing within yourself. Then there's circumstance. Repeating outcomes, whether it's financial instability, creative blockages, or toxic work environments, mirror internal beliefs and frequencies. You might believe you're ready to receive abundance. But if your baseline energy is anxious, untrusting, or attached to struggle, your reality will keep reflecting that back. So here's the invitation. Begin treating your life like a feedback system, a mirror that's not punishing you, but informing you. A mirror that is incredibly loyal. It will always reflect what you are being, not what you are pretending. You may wonder, but what about the chaos I didn't choose? The injustice I didn't ask for? Valid question. Life contains elements beyond your personal frequency. There are collective energies, ancestral patterns, and systemic influences. But even within that, your personal reality still bends toward your dominant state. You may not have chosen the event, but you have the ability to respond in a way that shifts the mirror. This is why 2 people can experience the same external situation, yet interpret it, react to it, and grow from it in completely different ways. Because it's not the mirror itself that defines you, it's how you use it. Here's a practical exercise to start using this principle now. Pick one recurring frustration in your life right now. Write down how that situation makes you feel. Then ask, what belief or emotional state must I be holding to attract or accept this into my reality? Finally, ask, what would someone with a different internal state experience instead? This reframes the issue. It moves you from victim to participant, and it gives you a map to work with, shift the frequency, and the reflection changes. Now, there's one more layer to this. The mirror doesn't just reflect what you believe about yourself, it also reflects your boundaries or lack thereof. If you tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or dishonesty, life assumes that's your energetic standard, not because you deserve it, but because you haven't recalibrated your signal. Boundaries are vibrational declarations. When you hold them firmly, not just in word, but in energy, the mirror adjusts. You're always training the world how to treat you based on how you treat yourself energetically. And when you begin to see life through this lens, everything becomes a teaching. Every delay, every trigger, every compliment, every rejection, it's all reflecting something back. The question is, are you paying attention? Because here's the truth. The mirror reality is not personal. It's precise. And that precision becomes your most powerful tool once you stop fighting the reflection and start adjusting the signal. It doesn't mean you'll never face hardship. It means you'll understand what that hardship is activating in you and what it's asking you to shift. This gives you a new kind of freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't wait for outer circumstances to improve before feeling empowered. You stop waiting for the reflection to change before you feel better. You feel better, and the reflection follows. So now ask yourself, what is my current reality reflecting about the way I see myself, the way I treat myself, and the way I expect life to respond to me? Be honest, not critical, just clear. Because clarity is power. And once you're clear, you can calibrate. You've now seen how your energy is mirrored in people, reactions, and circumstances. In the next part, you'll discover how seemingly small daily inputs, your routine, your space, your environment, are constantly reinforcing your energetic loop. Because sometimes, the biggest influence on your reality isn't an emotional wound or deep belief. It's a tiny, unconscious trigger you've overlooked for years. Not all patterns are driven by dramatic moments or powerful emotions. Some of the most persistent loops in your life are maintained by tiny, seemingly harmless inputs, your environment, your routines, your habits. These subtle elements act as morphic triggers, cues that activate specific energetic responses and keep your vibrational field stuck in a familiar rhythm. You might not even notice them. They're so embedded in your day-to-day life that they blend into the background. But make no mistake, these small details are feeding your energy system constantly. And if your energy is broadcasting an outdated signal, it's likely because these micro-triggers are reinforcing it every single day. Let's define what a morphic trigger actually is. A morphic trigger is anything in your environment or behavior that consistently activates a specific emotional or energetic response. It could be an object, a sound, a smell, a time of day, a person, a piece of clothing, a room in your house, or even the way you start your morning. When experienced repeatedly, these cues become energetically charged. They link your current state to an emotional pattern that already exists in your morphic field. The result? Repetition, looping, predictability. You think you're having new experiences, but the emotional template remains unchanged. Let's look at this practically. You wake up. The first thing you see is your phone. You scroll. News, emails, demands, distractions. Your body tenses. You haven't even stood up yet, but your emotional field has already been activated, likely by a sense of urgency, comparison, or low-level anxiety. That's a morphic trigger. Or maybe it's your kitchen. Every time you step into it, your energy drops, not because of the space itself, but because that space is linked with isolation, stress, or exhaustion. You've stood there too many times in a similar emotional state. Now the space itself holds the resonance. This is how morphic triggers operate, not as causes, but as activators. They don't create new energy. They call up old energy you've stored and forgotten. Now ask yourself, what places, objects, or routines in my life feel heavy, draining, or emotionally stagnant? The answer to that question will expose your current energetic loop, not in theory, but in practice. This is where awareness becomes your power. It's not enough to understand your emotions. You have to understand what's reinforcing them. And often, It's not the big stuff. It's the subtle cues that whisper to your nervous system. This is who we are. This is how we feel. This is what we expect. You brush past these cues daily, but your energy doesn't. Let's explore some common categories of morphic triggers and how they show up. 1. Environmental triggers. These are physical cues, spaces, objects, or visual details that are tied to specific energetic states. Examples include a cluttered desk that reminds you of overwhelm, clothes that remind you of a version of yourself you've outgrown, lighting that mimics the emotional tone of a place you used to feel disempowered. These aren't just aesthetic issues, they're energetic reminders. Your system associates these visuals with previous emotional states and activates the same feelings in response. 2. Behavioral triggers. These are patterns in your actions or routines that cue emotional repetition. For example, checking your phone first thing in the morning, skipping meals because you're too busy, saying yes out of guilt instead of alignment. These habits reinforce a vibrational loop, not because of the act itself, but because of what it signals to your system about your value, priorities, or agency. 3. Relational triggers. Certain people in your life activate old energy patterns, not because they intend to, but because of how your dynamic has developed. You may feel like a certain version of yourself around them, diminished, defensive, performative, guarded. Ask, who in my life makes me unconsciously shrink, prove, or protect myself? That interaction becomes a morphic trigger. Now here's the empowering part. Morphic triggers can be disrupted. You are not required to keep responding to life on autopilot. But to shift the response, you have to shift the cue. And it starts by changing your inputs, consciously, even symbolically. Let's look at some small but powerful shifts you can make. Rearrange a space that holds stagnant energy. Replace one item in your wardrobe that feels tied to a disempowered self-image. Begin your day with stillness or intention instead of technology. Walk a new route. Sit in a different chair. Alter your light source. Introduce one object into your space that reflects the energy you want to feel. Calm, powerful, creative, expansive. These may sound trivial. They're not. Every time you change a cue, you interrupt a loop. And when you repeat the new cue with intention, your energy begins to form a new default. Let's be clear. This isn't about obsessively controlling your environment. It's about recognizing that your energy is constantly responding to signals. If you don't select those signals with intention, they'll be selected by habit. Now pause. Ask yourself this: what is the most common trigger I interact with daily, and what does it activate in me? Write it down. Then ask, what small change can I make to neutralize or transform that cue? Here's something important to remember. Your brain and your energy field both thrive on associations. That means even tiny shifts, if practiced consistently, create new associations. Over time, your nervous system stops linking your kitchen to stress. Your phone no longer floods you with anxiety the moment you wake up. That hallway you used to rush through becomes a space of intentional breath. These aren't cosmetic upgrades. They're energetic recalibrations. You are retraining your system to associate your environment with new feelings, new stories, new instructions. This is how you dissolve loops without forcing massive emotional shifts. You work with the body, with the nervous system, with the environment, and each small victory builds momentum. Eventually, you wake up and realize something powerful. The same world now feels different. Not because the world changed, but because your relationship to it did. The triggers that once activated old pain or stress are now neutral or even inspiring. You've rewritten the resonance. Now let's take this even further. Up to this point, you've become aware of the energetic patterns shaping your life. You've learned how mood, thought, and behavior are looping. You've seen how your environment reinforces those loops. And you've learned how to begin shifting all of it. So the question becomes, how do you intentionally break the pattern? Fast and clean. In the next part, you'll discover the most effective way to do that by introducing a deliberate disruption to the loop. Something your old energy doesn't expect. Get ready to explore the method of breaking the blueprint. Every pattern you've identified in your life so far, whether it's emotional, behavioral, relational, or environmental, has one thing in common. It continues because it's familiar. Your nervous system prefers predictability over progress. And until that preference is interrupted, no amount of insight will create lasting change. This is where the concept of pattern disruption becomes essential. Disruption doesn't mean chaos. It means breaking the expected flow of your system just enough to create space for something new. It's the intentional act of choosing a response, behavior, or input that contradicts the loop you've been stuck in. The moment you do this consistently and consciously, you shift the blueprint your energy has been following. Let's start with the basics. A pattern is a repeated response to a repeated trigger. Your body feels a certain way, your mind creates a certain story, you act in a predictable way, and you get a familiar result. The loop confirms itself. It becomes stronger. It becomes your identity. Disruption interrupts the loop mid-cycle. It doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to become unpredictable to your old self. And that unpredictability, that's the doorway to transformation. Here's how pattern disruption works. Your energetic system thrives on momentum. The longer a pattern runs without interruption, the more automatic it becomes. But the moment you introduce a new element, something unexpected, something misaligned with the old energy, you weaken the loop's authority. Your brain pauses. Your energy pauses. And in that pause, a new decision becomes possible. Let's break this into 3 clear stages. 1. Recognize the activation. You cannot disrupt what you do not see. Start by identifying the moment your pattern is being activated. This is usually marked by a physical cue, a tightening in your chest, a drop in your mood, a familiar mental narrative spinning up. You don't need to analyze it. Just notice. Ask yourself, am I about to do what I always do when I feel this? If the answer is yes, stop. That moment is your window. 2. Choose the opposite energy. This doesn't mean flipping into fake positivity. It means asking, what's one action or thought that directly contradicts this pattern? If your usual move is to shut down, speak up. If you normally overextend, pause and say no. If you react with blame, ask what you can own. If you spiral in your head, stand up and move your body. These small reversals send shockwaves through your system. They confuse the loop. They interrupt the script. And that confusion is gold. Because in that space, you're not operating from habit, you're choosing from clarity. 3. Anchor the disruption with a shift in environment. One of the most powerful ways to cement a new response is to anchor it physically. Change your position. Change your location. Change your posture. Even a minor change, like standing if you were sitting, opening a window, or stepping outside, sends a new signal to your nervous system. Environment speaks directly to your subconscious. If you break the internal pattern and pair it with an external shift, the message becomes embodied. Let's look at a practical example. Suppose your loop is conflict avoidance. Every time tension arises, you go quiet, suppress your feelings, and disconnect. The result? Unresolved issues, misalignment, emotional fatigue. That's the loop. Here's how disruption looks. You feel the tension building. You recognize the urge to shut down. You pause, breathe. Then you do something different. Express one clear sentence that reflects your truth. Not a full argument, just one line that breaks your silence. Then, to cement the shift, you change your environment. You get up and move into another room, or take a walk, or shift your posture dramatically. Straighten your spine, relax your jaw, roll your shoulders back. This combination, new response plus new environment, shakes the old blueprint. Repeat that disruption enough times, and your system begins to expect a new flow. The old pattern loses strength. A new one takes shape. Now let's talk about resistance. Your old patterns won't go quietly. They're not alive, but they behave like they are. They will try to convince you that disruption is unsafe, unnecessary, or unrealistic. You'll hear mental noise like, "This won't make a difference. You'll just fall back into the old way tomorrow. You're faking it." These are not facts. These are remnants of the loop defending itself. Your job is not to silence those voices. Your job is to hear them and act anyway, because each time you disrupt, even by a few seconds, you build evidence that a new reality is possible. That's how momentum shifts, from repetition, not from intensity. Here's a simple disruption challenge to practice over the next few days. Identify one pattern you're ready to shift. Choose a small but specific opposite action. Set a clear environmental anchor for that action. A place, a movement, a sound, even a scent. Commit to interrupting the pattern at least once per day with your new response. Track it. Don't overthink it. Just practice. This will feel awkward at first. Supposed to. That awkwardness is the feeling of unfamiliar wiring being laid down. Over time, disruption becomes design. You're no longer reacting. You're reprogramming. You're writing a new energetic instruction manual. One that your subconscious, your body, and your environment all begin to follow. Let's be very clear. This is not about pretending your problems don't exist. It's about refusing to approach them with the same energy that created them. Because once you shift the energy even slightly, the solution space expands. New ideas emerge. Different people show up. The tone of your entire reality begins to recalibrate. So ask yourself right now, where am I most predictable to my own pain? That's your doorway. That's where disruption matters most. From this point forward, you're not just observing your patterns, you're challenging them. Not through force, not through denial, but through small, strategic acts of rebellion against the expected. This is how you break the blueprint. In the next part, we take this one step further. You'll learn how to consciously repattern your energy field, not just to interrupt the loop, but to install a new frequency as your foundation. The goal isn't just to stop what no longer works, it's to embody what finally does. Once you've interrupted the old pattern, something rare and powerful opens up. Space. And in that space lies your opportunity not just to do something different, but to be something different. This is the moment to stop reacting from old code and start writing new instructions. This is where conscious repatterning begins. Let's be clear. You are not just breaking loops for the sake of avoidance. You're clearing the emotional noise so you can replace it with a signal that aligns with who you actually are. The version of you that's not shaped by trauma, fear, or repetition, but by choice, clarity, and deliberate energetic design. The question now becomes, what frequency do you want your life to respond to? Before we answer that, let's understand what frequency means in this context. Your frequency is the sum total of your dominant emotional tone, your self-perception, and your internal narratives. It's what you radiate consistently, not what you hope for, not what you momentarily feel, but what your energy defaults to in neutral moments. That baseline is what shapes your external reality more than any vision board, affirmation, or goal list ever could. So the task ahead of you is simple in concept, but demanding in practice. Replace your unconscious baseline with a conscious one. Here's how to start. Step 1. Define the new frequency. Before you can install a new energetic pattern, you need to name it. And you need to do so with emotional precision. Don't aim for vague labels like positive or high vibe. Instead, ask yourself, what exact emotional state do I want to feel more often without needing anything to trigger it? Is it grounded clarity, expansive peace, calm confidence, quiet joy, trust, power? Pick one. This is not about choosing the most impressive word. It's about choosing the frequency that feels most aligned with the future you're creating. Once you've named it, describe it in detail. What does this frequency feel like in your body? How does it breathe? How does it walk? How does it respond under pressure? How does it handle disappointment? How does it speak to others and to itself? Write the answers down. This is your energetic blueprint. Not the default one you've inherited or reinforced. The one you are now choosing. Step 2. Embody the frequency daily before evidence appears. Here's where most people falter. They try to feel the new frequency only after something in their life changes. They wait for the relationship, the income, the breakthrough. But this reverses the flow of energy. You don't wait to feel peace once things are calm. You radiate peace until calm becomes your norm. You don't wait to feel confidence once you're validated. You move like someone who's already enough. You don't wait to feel secure after external proof. You create security in your own system first. This isn't pretending. It's training. Training your nervous system to believe it's safe to embody what you've never experienced long-term. And yes, at first, your system will resist. It'll call you fake. It'll remind you of everything that contradicts this new feeling. But remember, those reminders are just old echoes. They have no authority unless you give it back to them. So how do you practice the new frequency? Anchor it in your body every day. Close your eyes. Recall the emotional state you defined. Now, without needing a single outer condition to change. Feel it. Embody it. Adjust your breath. Shift your posture. Relax your jaw. Let your energy catch up with the version of you you're stepping into. Do this for 5 minutes a day, every day, especially when it feels pointless, especially when the outer world hasn't caught up yet. That's when it matters most. Step 3, speak, decide, and move from the new pattern. Now that you've anchored the frequency internally, bring it into your actions. Every decision you make is a chance to either reinforce your past or confirm your future. Ask before you respond, what would this new frequency choose right now? Would it send that message or let silence speak? Would it scroll through distractions or sit with itself? Would it overcommit to please or honor its own boundary? Each choice becomes a declaration of who you're becoming. Each move reinforces the signal you're sending to the world and to yourself. This isn't about perfection. You'll revert sometimes. That's okay. The goal isn't to never slip. It's to notice the slip and recover faster. Over time, the recovery becomes the norm. And then, so does the frequency. Step 4. Recalibrate your environment to reflect the new frequency. Your internal state needs support. Don't surround your new signal with the same inputs that anchored your old one. Rearrange your space to reflect clarity instead of chaos. Surround yourself with visuals that represent the emotional tone you're building. Curate your digital inputs, what you consume online, the messages you allow in, the voices you let influence you. This is not about control. It's about resonance. If you want your internal world to hold a new vibration, the external world needs to stop triggering the old one. Step 5. Protect the frequency with non-negotiables. Now that you've created the new baseline, protect it. Don't argue with energies that try to pull you back. Don't explain your peace to those addicted to drama. Don't trade your clarity for someone else's confusion. Don't postpone your new frequency for approval or validation. Let your decisions teach people what version of you they're speaking to now. If they knew the old version, let them learn the new one by your actions, not your explanations. Protecting the frequency doesn't mean isolating. It means staying loyal to the energetic truth you're building, even when it's uncomfortable. Step 6. Track subtle shifts, not massive outcomes. Repatterning doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like less reactivity in a conversation that used to trigger you, a spontaneous feeling of calm for no reason, a relationship slowly beginning to match your new boundaries, an old habit simply not feeling true anymore. These are the signs that your frequency is working. Don't dismiss them. Track them. Let them encourage you. Big changes come from the consistent layering of subtle shifts. One honest breath at a time. One better choice at a time. One quiet refusal to collapse into the old version of you. That's how the new pattern becomes permanent. So ask yourself right now, what frequency am I ready to embody, whether or not the world catches up immediately? Hold that answer. Feel it. Speak from it. Let it live in your spine. You are not waiting to become that version of you. You are now practicing what that version feels like, until the world has no choice but to reflect it. Next, we bring it all home. You've done the work to uncover, disrupt, and rewrite the invisible energy guiding your life. Now, you'll learn how your reality responds instantly to your energetic instructions, and how to keep your signal clean, clear, and powerful. By now, you've done the work of examining your loops, shifting your frequency, rewriting old blueprints, and building a new internal signal. But there's a truth you now need to fully integrate. Your reality is always listening. Every moment, every breath, every unspoken belief and repeated thought, It all sends out instructions. Not in words, not in prayers, but in vibration. You've probably been taught to think that life responds to what you say you want. But that's not how reality works. Reality responds to what you consistently signal. And that signal is energetic, emotional, and deeply honest, even when your conscious mind tries to hide. So now the question becomes, are you speaking the right energy? Start here. Look around your life right now, your relationships, your environment, your finances, your inner peace, your health. Not through the lens of judgment, but observation. Ask, what is my current life telling me about the frequency I've been radiating? Because life speaks back. Through delay, flow, resistance, or alignment. It is not punishing or rewarding you. It is simply mirroring instructions you've already given, sometimes weeks, sometimes months ago. This is why affirmations that don't match your baseline emotional state rarely work. Saying, I am abundant, while carrying an internal frequency of lack only creates cognitive dissonance. You're broadcasting one energy while speaking another. The universe doesn't hear your words. It reads your field. To shift this, you must become more fluent in the language of energy than the language of logic. This is not mysticism. This is mechanics. Let's break this down clearly. Your energy is made of your dominant thoughts, your repetitive emotions, your habitual behaviors, your expectations about yourself and the world. This composite becomes your vibrational instruction manual. When you consistently radiate this signal, reality shapes around it, aligning people, events, and timing to match it. You may have experienced this in flashes. A day when you feel deeply aligned, and suddenly people treat you differently. A time when you're in flow and everything clicks into place. A period when you're resentful and friction shows up everywhere. That's not random. That's feedback. Your reality is listening. Not casually, but constantly. And so, to truly rewrite your life, you have to ask, what frequency do I speak with when I'm not trying? That's the one that sets your trajectory. Because when you're not performing, not pretending, not doing the work, whatever tone is left behind in your energy, that's your instruction to the world. Let's get specific. If your internal state is filled with fear, even if masked as caution or logic, you're telling reality, I am not safe. I am not ready. If your dominant energy is one of proving, you're signaling, I am not enough until someone else says I am. If you're stuck in waiting energy, waiting to feel secure, waiting for a sign, you're telling life, I don't trust yet. I'm not claiming this yet. Life responds accordingly. It holds back because you are. But when you shift your internal tone to one of clarity, readiness, peace, or unapologetic truth, before any outer confirmation, life can't help but recalibrate. Not immediately, but inevitably, because energetic signals are magnetic. They pull toward you what they match. They repel what they don't. So the question becomes, how do you keep your signal aligned, even when your external reality hasn't caught up yet? Let's get practical. 1. Audit your language internally and externally. Words are an extension of energy. Start noticing how you speak to others and, more importantly, how you speak to yourself. Pay attention to phrases like, I always mess this up. Nothing ever works for me. This is just how I am. I'll believe it when I see it. These are not throwaway lines. They are energetic contracts. And every time you say them, your field listens and aligns accordingly. Replace them with language that matches your chosen frequency. Not through forced positivity, but through energetic accuracy. Try, I'm learning to do this differently. I'm updating my pattern now. This version of me chooses a new result. I trust myself more every day. Speak as the future version of you would: calm, clear, honest, powerful. 2. Stop negotiating with the old pattern. Your old energy will try to pull you back. It will whisper that nothing's changed, that it's too soon to believe, too risky to trust. That voice is part of the old contract. You don't need to debate it. You need to stop engaging it. Disengagement is not denial. It's the refusal to give your attention to a loop that no longer serves you. Instead, recenter, breathe, come back to your chosen frequency. Remember, Your job is not to argue with the old. You're here to be the new. 3. Stay in transmission mode, not test mode. Too often, people ask, has it worked yet? That question sends the signal, I don't believe yet. I'm still checking. When you're aligned, you stop checking. You start transmitting. You don't keep digging up the seed to see if it's growing. You water it. You trust it. You align your behavior with the assumption that something is growing, even before you see proof. This is not blind faith. This is energetic integrity. When you live, speak, and decide from your chosen frequency, even without evidence, you begin to generate results that were previously unavailable to your old energy. You stop seeking confirmation. You become the confirmation. 4. Use delay as refinement, not rejection. Sometimes, results take time to surface. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because your system is still calibrating. Life is rearranging in your favor, but it may need to move certain pieces, clear old connections, or test your consistency. Don't mistake delay for denial. Use it as a signal to refine, not retreat. Ask, is there any part of me still whispering doubt? Still hesitating? Still broadcasting a mixed signal? Then adjust. Clean it up. Simplify your message. Your reality will follow. 5. Remember who's speaking. You are not just waiting for life to treat you differently. You are speaking to it right now through every choice, every breath, every assumption. So the ultimate question becomes, what are you telling life it should send you more of, based on the way you're being, not just what you're saying? Be honest. And if the answer doesn't match what you want, change the conversation. Your energy is your language. Your decisions are your tone. Your emotions are your punctuation. And your life is your echo. Speak with intention. Align with consistency. And trust the feedback because it's already on its way. Next, we'll close this journey with a clear, empowering summary and a call to action. So you not only remember what you've learned, but know how to use it going forward. You've made it here not just to the final piece of this journey, but to the threshold where understanding must become application, where ideas must become energy, where knowing must become choice. Because now, more than ever, your life is asking you a direct question. What patterns are you willing to stop repeating? Today, you've seen the architecture. You've decoded the energetic loop. You understand how your mood shapes your thoughts, how your thoughts build behavior, and how behavior locks in results. You've uncovered how morphic resonance echoes through your field. You've traced attractors, confronted emotional phantoms, observed mirrors, and disrupted loops. Now comes the part that too many people skip. Integration. This isn't a motivational moment. This is an instruction manual for transformation. If you don't act, the loop resets. If you don't move, your old signal reclaims its seat. Energy doesn't wait for convenience. It responds to clarity. So let's get very clear. Right now, the energy you're holding is either a message to life that says, more of the same, please, or I'm ready to receive something different. There is no neutral signal. Every moment you spend in unconscious repetition reinforces the old loop. Every conscious action, no matter how small, reinforces the new one. Here's your call to action. Not a vague encouragement. A specific, grounded challenge designed to activate real change, starting today. Step 1. Identify the pattern you're repeating most often. Don't overthink this. You already know what it is. That one situation, reaction, or dynamic that keeps circling back no matter how much you shift your outer circumstances. Ask yourself, what's the most consistent frustration in my life right now? What emotion does it always lead me back to? Write it down in a single, honest sentence. Example, I keep entering relationships where I feel unseen. Or, I constantly feel like I'm working hard and getting nowhere. Or, I always end up in situations where I doubt myself. That sentence is your loop anchor. That's the pattern you're here to break. Step 2, map the loop: mood, thought, result. Take 10 minutes. No distractions. Write out how the pattern plays out using this framework. Mood. What's the emotional tone that starts the loop? Thought. What story or belief forms from that mood? Action. How do you behave when you're in that thought? Result: what keeps happening, and how does it feed the original mood? This isn't for insight alone. This is your schematic. You're tracing the wiring of the old energetic blueprint. Now draw a line under it. That pattern is no longer in charge. Step 3. Name your new frequency. You've already practiced this. Now you finalize it. Answer this question honestly. What do I want my energy to feel like, regardless of what the world is doing around me? Name it in one word or phrase: steady power, calm confidence, trust, freedom, lightness, sovereignty, self-respect, joy. Now define what that frequency does, how it breathes, how it stands, how it speaks, how it decides. Write that down. You are now choosing this frequency as your baseline, not your reward. Step 4. Commit to a daily disruption. Pick one consistent action that directly contradicts your old loop. If you usually silence your voice, speak your truth once per day. If you overcommit to please others, say no once per day. If you wait for motivation, act from intention once per day. If you rehearse worst-case scenarios, visualize your desired outcome once per day. This isn't symbolic. This is mechanical. Energy shifts when behavior changes. Behavior changes when repetition becomes intentional. Track it, not for achievement but for momentum. The goal is not perfection, it's evidence. You're showing your system that something different is now possible. You're showing your field that the blueprint is being rewritten. Step 5. Interrupt your triggers physically. Choose one morphic trigger from your environment and alter it. Rearrange one space. Replace one object. Shift your morning cue. Introduce a new sensory input that reflects your chosen frequency. The physical change becomes an anchor. Every time you interact with that changed space or cue, it reminds your body, we're not in the old loop anymore. This creates consistency between your energy and your environment. Step 6. Speak to life directly, every morning. When you wake up, before you check your phone or touch anything else, say this out loud or write it. Today I choose a new signal. I trust that my reality reflects my energy, so I speak with clarity. I act with integrity. I feel before I think. I return to the frequency I've chosen, no matter what arises. I do not wait to be convinced. I lead with the energy I want life to match. I am the instruction. I am the signal. I am the new pattern now. Repeat this or create your own. The key is consistency, not complexity. You're not asking life to bring you something. You're telling it what frequency to respond to, and it will. Step 7. Share your shift. This is not about announcing your growth to prove anything. This is about grounding your transformation through expression. Energy becomes real when it's shared. Right now, answer this in the comments or say it aloud to yourself. The pattern I'm breaking today is underscore. The energy I'm choosing instead is underscore. Let that be your broadcast, your new signal, not a hope, a decision. Because here's the final truth. You were never stuck, you were patterned. You were never cursed, you were rehearsing. You were never lost, you were looping. And now you're aware, which means you're free. The rest is practice. Your reality is listening. It always has been. And now it will respond to the new you that speaks with clarity, acts with alignment, and chooses the right frequency. Moment by moment, day by day. Your field is updating now. Let it echo exactly what you came here to become. Ready for the next layer? Subscribe now, and let's continue building a life that responds to the truth of your energy, not the weight of your past. Because next time, we're exploring how parallel realities respond instantly to energetic shifts, and what happens when your identity changes faster than your circumstances. Until then, stay conscious, stay clear, stay in command of your signal. The field is listening. Speak wisely,